everybody, you won't say that we're starting off perfect because we're not. But here,
for all you've done to your bodies, it's still real to me, damn it. I mean,
it is.
all right, now that's what was supposed to happen. Randall Cunningham for It's Still Real to Me. In the middle is our host, Howie Chaney. To the right is the good guy, the baby face, Jeremy Johnson. And it's been a minute, so I'm going to turn it over to Howie. Let him do some talking.
Guys, great to be back. Missed talking to y'all this way. I mean, we text each other about 100 times a day, it seems like, if not more.
Yeah.
Let's see. I was figuring it up today. We had a state finalist, a third round, a second round. We all have seen enough football for a lifetime this year. So let's just go on around.
Yeah, it's great to be back. Jeremy's coming off of the state championship broadcast with the fun crew.
Hey,
yep.
Y'all good too, man.
Yeah, well, we try hard. Adam does all the work. We just show up and try not to embarrass him.
You don't stink to the nearer the level I thought you would stink, so that's good.
Yeah, that's all. Hey, look, I thrive off low expectations, man. Hey, you're nowhere near as bad as I thought you would be. That's what she said.
Kerry actually asked good questions to Coach Benefield.
I did.
Oh, well, Jeremy's already frozen.
I did. Got to be real careful with that too.
Yeah. Especially mid-game.
All right, we've been away for a while.
Oh yeah.
We got a few news things I want to talk about before we get into the Iron Claw. Big news coming out last week, I think, or come out this week, but it happened a couple of weeks ago. Charlotte Flair messed her knee up. If it can be tore or ripped apart, it happened in her knee. Guys, how big of an effect is that going to take on the WWE women's division?
Who watches? Look, I can't be my normal hater on WWE, period. Charlotte Flair was the best in the world for about a 4 or 5 year run. And she's probably second best. I think my girl Rhea Ripley has passed her. But it's like the vet in any organization. She was kind of past the point of being the front of it, but she was the key holder definitely to the division. You had to go through her. So I think it's a blow. I actually don't think the talent in the WWE developmental needs to be on the main roster. I'm like over some of the main roster girls, so let's get some of those kids up there. But Charlotte Flair, all I can go back to is the WrestleMania match with her and Rhea Ripley might have been the best match of that night. So
yeah,
more power. Charlotte Flair is class. Everything else in the WWE is something that rides with class. So I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, come on, Randall. My goodness. I disagree.
Bloodline, and now they've run it into the ground. So
yeah, I understand, but it depends on what your opinion is. If you're running WWE, they're printing money right now. So you know what? They must be doing something right because they're printing money. So as far as Charlotte goes, you know what? To me, I think she will always be and go down as the best female wrestler to ever do it. As she's still at a high level. It's gonna be out 9 months, right? Something in that neighborhood. Miss WrestleMania. I think here's where having. Go ahead.
She's got to be getting close to the backside of her career too.
Yeah. In reality, got a later start maybe because she was a fitness a trainer and done other things earlier in her life and career, but here's where bench strength is important. and giving kids, and you said moving kids up from NXT, which I think they've got some real talent in NXT.
They too.
You still have Becky Lynch. You still have, gosh, you've got Jade out there somewhere that's going to be a mega star. Jade Cargill, she's going to be a mega star. You've got who else you got here?
Rhea
Rhea, of course, is a given. So I don't think it's going to hurt them from what they were booking as far as the WrestleMania aspect. I don't think it's going to hurt them.
I think the thing that may hurt them the most would be, I think, to get Jade over would have been her against Charlotte.
Yeah.
And then Jade would go after Rhea.
Mm-hmm.
But, Becky may have to step up, or Bianca Belair may have to step up.
Yeah. And I would love, hey, that'd be a great match.
Yeah. Randy.
Like Jade in AEW, I'm not going to be the biggest fan, but she needs to learn how to work in NXT before she gets on the main roster.
Well, that's why you don't see her wrestling. That's why you don't see her wrestling, and she's working and getting the training that, not to knock AEW, because I like AEW. That female division don't get the type of training that they do at NXT.
Well, leave it to Triple H to knock AEW by saying that she came in kind of raw and
I know
trained, So we got,
because he's the one that trained her. The Rhodes Academy. Hey, do y'all think it's funny that now all of a sudden WWE is trying to rehire Sasha Banks? I mean, that's the big noise going around, is that they're trying to get her back. For her contract at New Japan's up January the 4th. Now it seems like there's a bidding war between TNA, AEW, New Japan, and WWE to bring her back. And I think that happened. That news broke about the time Charlotte Flair got hurt.
Yeah, probably to fill that veteran spot for at least the time being.
Yeah.
So that's what I would. That's what I would guess.
Right. Move on to the next one. We got two more quick news items. Real quick, WWE SmackDown is moving from Fox to USA. That means Raw will need to find a new home. How will that affect AEW? Brady?
I don't know. I don't think WWE will ever end up on the Turner Network. I'll put it that way. If Ted has any power left in his ability at the Turner Network, WWE will never set foot on the Turner Network family. So I think WWE already has a plan, or AEW already has a plan out of Turner to go to the TNA more, where it's a weekly online service, and I don't know that I hate that. I think there's too much right now AEW on TV.
Yeah, I look, and just to that point right there. You say it may you think, okay, hey, I got all this talent, got these former WWE stars, got a lot of independent talent, got all this talent. We need another show. We'll do another show. Look, less is more, my friend. Less is more.
I think somebody about signing CM Punk, and we see how that went. So
yeah, I too much.
We agree on that.
And our last news item is Mr. CM Punk coming back to the WWE.
Oh, that's not our news item. We'll talk about it. Those are others. Go ahead.
That's the only three news items that I have wrote down. So,
like Mussolini.
CM Punk back in WWE. He's making waves and seems like he's playing nice at the beginning. And let's hope he stays that way, because personally, I like CM Punk as far as his in-ring ability and everything. I'm not going to agree or disagree with the things that he's done in the past, but that's I don't agree with a lot of things a lot of people does. But professional ball players and all that, but myself, I enjoy watching CM Punk cut promos and doing what he does in the ring. Jeremy, I'll let you kick it off.
He makes the crowd go wild. That pop when he came out, that was unreal. Here's the thing, and I'm rehashing, and I may repeat stuff that people, if anybody listens to this, that people have heard from other people, but I think it's true. I think he was frustrated at the Wild West show that AEW is in the back. I don't think they have the structure, and I'm a AEW fan, but you have to have a structure. You have to have some form of organization, some form of rules, or whatever the case may be. And it was a free for all, and he didn't like it. And he was open to saying he didn't like it and choking a few people out in the back. He made reference to that. I thought it was cool. They no-sold it, though. The crowd did. But I think he'll do well if you have a strong leader in place. And I think they have one in Triple H. And that stuff will get squashed before it ever begins. And he may and then at that point, it'll be a mutual parting of ways. And we want to thank CM Punk for his contributions, and we wish him well. And it'll be and it won't be chaos like it was. Just saying. AEW's lost, WWE's gained.
Randy, you have any thoughts?
The problem is CM Punk. Was the problem before in the WWE? Was the problem in AEW? Was the problem in Ring of Honor? Was the problem in TNA? I don't care if I ever see CM Punk.
Can I add to? All right, so last year or the beginning of the year when some of this stuff was going, I feel the same way as you do, Randall. He's tough to deal with. That's why I said there has to be a strong leader in place to keep him under control and to keep him and to have him fall in either. That sounds harsh, but kind of, hey, look, let's play together, let's work together. And if you don't have a strong leader, and I'm going to tell you, Tony Khan's not a strong leader. He is not a strong leader. They'll run roughshod over you, and it'll go out of control. I don't know what kind of leader Triple H is. I kind of think he's probably a strong leader. That's what he needs. And if he doesn't have that, he will wreak havoc, just to your point. He will wreak havoc on your team, whatever it may be.
I agree with you in every form except CM Punk wanted to be Triple H in AEW, and he couldn't handle it. Tony Khan's mistake was taking the idiot and putting him in charge. That was a huge mistake by Tony Khan.
Well, all right, now wait a minute. We agree a lot. I disagree. Collision was way better when CM Punk was in charge because I can't watch it now.
I don't care what the material was in the ring. It's what he did back.
The behind the scenes. Yeah, to me, you're right on that. He's not the kind of guy you want to put in charge of people.
That was a bad.
He's not that guy. Creatively, maybe. Dealing with people, no.
The fourth news item that I'm the AEW mark. We are not getting off from here without talking about the best in the world, not CM Punk, coming to AEW in January.
AEW.
In Will Ospreay. I think that's the story of the year, is Will Ospreay finally locating his base of performance to the U.S. while he still lives in the UK. But I think Will Ospreay is in the position to make the impact in AEW that we wanted CM Punk to make. So I think Will Ospreay is the one hiring that AEW could have made that is going to impact it for the next generation. Let's say it that way.
Mm.
I don't know Will Ospreay, so I can't say yay or nay. I've saw him a couple times in AEW, and that's it. So,
well, Howie, to your point, he's not going to be CM Punk to AEW because people don't know him. I love him. I think he's fantastic, but
offered a huge deal from WWE. I think a lot more people know him than you think know him. But we get into this conversation. I think WWE is a fine American company. I think New Japan is a fine Japanese company. But I think worldwide, New Japan probably has more following than WWE when it comes to these marks like me that like to follow the Japanese style. But we'll see. I want to see y'all watch him work, and then you tell me who's better in the ring.
I've watched him work. I think he's fantastic, and he's probably one of the best wrestlers in the entire world. And I like that smugness that he has as a heel, and I think he's going to be great for AEW. But here's the thing: is he going to get buried? And before you know it, look at all the talent that they have. What are we doing with them? Where's FTR right now? Where's FTR?
Gotta go away. Miss you.
I know, but there's people that have been missed that they still ain't putting out there, and they're not doing it.
For the people that ask that question, the title has been on the man for almost a year and a half now, and it's what everybody wanted. So we'll see. But
yeah,
I think Will Ospreay signing is equal to CM Punk's. CM Punk, much better promo, but promo is what gets him in trouble.
Yeah.
I don't think CM Punk works better than Will Ospreay.
No.
Me being the mark of AEW, I'm going to bring it up before we go to the on-card.
No, I agree with you. I just don't think they're, from a drawing standpoint, they're not the same. From a work standpoint, it's Ospreay.
Not now, but there was a point where Bruno Sammartino drew better than Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
So it changes over time.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be interesting. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the ratings show once Ospreay comes in.
Yeah.
And also, we got to get this, one of the mini tournaments that Tony Khan has, got to get it over with.
Yeah. Now, look, the thing I like about tournaments, I do like it because if you could see matchups that you haven't seen before, I like that. But how many tournaments are we going to have as well?
Randy, let me ask you this: you're the big New Japan person. Do they have a lot of tournaments over there?
Yes.
Okay. He's modeling it basically after kind of that.
A lot more like New Japan than WWE.
Mm-hmm.
They have huge tournaments a year in New Japan. So you go from the best of the juniors to the tag team tournament to I can't remember the name of it, but they named their challenger for January the 4th, and they're very similar, Block A, Block B. This is right out of the New Japan booking system.
Yeah.
What is it called? The G4 or something like that?
G5. Yeah. Yes, you're right. I don't know why I couldn't come in.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
It ended up just like the G5.
G5.
And funny that New Japan open weight championship's been crowned out of this either.
Mm-hmm.
One more thing, then we'll get on to the Iron Claw. That's what the show's going to be about. They've got 3 belts up for this tournament that they're having, and they're out of different organizations. Like one of the belts from AEW is I can't remember which one it is, and then you got the Ring of Honor belt, something out of the Ring of Honor belt, and then you got something else. And if I understand it right, they're going to combine all this into one belt.
New Japan Triple Championship. This is another one. NWA Championship, which was the NWA International Heavyweight Championship. Terry Gordy famously held. The New Japan, the All Japan World Heavyweight Championship, and one more organization. I can't remember. They all had the same champion for years, and it was called the Triple Crown. Terry Gordy held it. Bruiser Brody held it. Stan Hansen held it. Where I don't know where Jeremy went. So we'll give him a second to get back. But yeah, this is another. It's straight out of New Japan. This one's straight out of New Japan. The Triple Championship's all out of All Japan. So, man, I hate we lost Jeremy. Hopefully he's back in just a minute.
Yeah, we'll hold off on the Iron Claw, getting started on it till he gets back. But yeah, it's a lot of tournaments going on.
CM Punk, just because I don't like how he treats the other performers, and that's the thing that I always bring up. He destroyed Colt Cabana, but I just don't like the way he treats other performers. But Jeremy, I was explaining why I don't like CM Punk, but I also was explaining the Triple Crown Championship is another thing from All Japan Wrestling that was in place for years and years and years. And I'm telling you, AEW is becoming more a Japanese. I think it's becoming more Japanese as it goes along, which I like, but I'm not sure. I told somebody the other day, I think it's becoming more territorial, almost like an old school territory than it is a nationwide company.
Yeah, and we people, well, they're trying to be, they think they're the second, they're trying to beat WWE. That may not ever be their goal. That may be exactly what they're trying to do, is to be provide a different alternative. These tournaments, New Japan, it's more of an athletic contest than it is a show, so to speak. And if that's what they're shooting for, and they're making money doing it, and we're entertained, yeah, that's fine.
I think it's kind of trying to rebuild the NWA in a way, but on a global basis. You now have New Japan and AEW hand in hand. I think Rev Pro in England, the Will Ospreay move, I think, is a reach out to Rev Pro. If you get Rev Pro in Europe, and it is getting more and more. My criticism of AEW is it's getting more and more guys. It's not general public marketed focused. At one point, I feel like it was trying to be an alternative to WWE, but now I feel like it's getting more and more in its own little world, which at 500,000 may be your mark, but you can still go to it feels like it's becoming what Tony Khan wants it to be, more than an alternative to WWE.
Right. Well, and you guys listen to Cornette, I listen to Cornette, and they always go through the ratings and all that stuff. And I'll be honest with you, that's a stupid measurement now, because of the streaming aspect. You can watch it later. I think it's dumb. I don't ever watch wrestling live. I never do. And so I think it's a poor metric if you're gauging a company's success. I think it's a poor metric to use, especially nowadays with all the options and stuff. And so I don't get into a lot of that about the maybe this is what they're shooting for, that different from WWE, and they are, the whole feel of it, the contests are different.
Well, I mean, that's what you want in any type of show, even just a regular TV show. If you do the same as all the other shows, then what do you have? You got the same show you're watching over and over.
That's right. To me, you want to be different. You want to give people another option. And for most people, I'm not diehard either. I watch it all. If wrestling's on.
I know that Randy started football, but when you got all these different football teams, if they all ran the same place, what you got? You got the same teams.
Nah. Yeah. I don't know about that. It depends on the players you got running those plays. No, I know what you mean, though, Howie. Yeah.
All right, let's move on from the news. We can catch up some more next week, or possibly next week.
Yeah.
Iron Claw. I've known Randy for many, many years, and I honestly can't say that I've ever seen him so excited about something in all my life or this here.
It is.
Randy, go ahead and give us a little bit of a Iron Claw preview.
Let me tell you, I'd be equally excited if it was the Harley Race story. I'd be equally excited if it was the Ric Flair story. What I have said for years is some of these stories in wrestling are mainstream movies sitting there waiting to be made.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
We are meeting Friday to see it. I don't think people are ready for what they're going to see. I don't think it's going to be what you expect either. This is not a happy-go-lucky story.
Mm-mm.
It is a story of tragedy, of one brother's love for his family as it self-destructed. And I've probably read more articles about this movie on River City Media. I think the Von Erich story, I may be wrong, but I think we'll be talking about this movie like we do The Wrestler in generations to come. Like, I think The Wrestler may have been the best wrestling movie to be made in a long, long time. I think this has really got a shot to be that. And if it was bad or the reviews were all bad coming out, I wouldn't be near as excited. But what I've read, this is well done, big-time Hollywood cast. People... Hector Guerrero, I don't know if y'all remember, got fired from AEW to go make this movie. He choreographed this movie. I'm really excited to see, and from what I understand, there's a couple of move-aways, but I don't think you and Jeremy even, I'm a little older, know the impact of the Von Erichs yet. I think you'll find out things Von Erichs that you didn't know Friday night when we see this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I started watching wrestling, the Von Erich was kind of phasing out, I guess you could say.
You probably saw the Tornado.
Yeah, that's one I really saw.
Yeah.
But I heard from when I'd watch wrestling with my uncles and my cousins, they would tell me that the Von Erichs was known for the claws. Or for the claw, not claws, but claw. And you didn't want to mess with them. And unfortunately, they had a bad run of bad luck in their life.
Oh, that's an understatement.
That is.
It almost like the family was cursed.
Well, I don't want to say that, but yeah, that's
and I don't want to say that. I mean, you would think that. I'm not saying I don't think that was the case. I just think there was just a lot of tragedy, that this family went through that is unusual. I mean, every family goes through tragedies and things that are tough, but that's a big accumulation of tragedies for those for the Von Erichs for sure.
One quick thing, real quick. Shout out to Jeremy for showing his sponsor of his workplace on his shirt today. So
hey, we all drink Diet Coca-Cola.
We all drink these too, and compliments of your local Coca-Cola bottling company. There.
That's all I got. But anyway, go ahead.
Wait a minute. Is that a Coca-Cola tumbler you got that in?
That's a generic cup from a local restaurant.
It's a Coca-Cola tumbler. The Coca-Cola's rubbed off.
Go ahead, Randy. Sorry about that.
Do y'all know that World Class Championship Wrestling was featured on ESPN for years? Did you ever see that part of the story? Or at this time that the Von Erichs are taking off, in that crew is Bruiser Brody, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Ultimate Warrior. It was, a lot of people said he had the one show and one demographic that was built to compete with Vince, but they had absolutely no desire to leave Dallas. That was their, and worldwide, they were bigger in Israel than they were Oklahoma. It's a strange story of how ESPN put them on, and they absolutely blew up.
Yeah, somebody told me at one time, a buddy of mine, he's like you too, as far as knows all sorts of everything about wrestling and then some. He basically said that the Von Erichs were the first family of Texas wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
That's very accurate. But
yeah,
they were bigger. Fritz von Erich was huge in Japan. He had like Beatles following in Japan. The boys were all in the Middle East for some reason. The boys were all super famous. At one point, the Freebird Von Erich rivalry were bigger than the WCW and WWE. And people saw wrestling through that rivalry. And that's how big that rivalry was. If you talk about 1982 and 83, I doubt people could tell you what was happening in WCW or WWE, but they can tell you all about the Freebirds Von Erichs.
right.
So that's right. They didn't even tour, Houston maybe as far as they'd go. Oklahoma maybe, but their base was Dallas. Production was done from Dallas. Spot shows were in Dallas. The Cotton Bowl was a twice or three times a year thing. Most of it was done in a 5,000 seat arena, the Sportatorium.
Yep.
And Jim Cornette talks about it, Howie. When they left Bill Watts, he sent them to Fritz because they were doing a talent exchange. And they about starved them out because you got about one big paycheck a week and then you were gone. So a lot of the guys worked for Fritz in Dallas, Sam Mochkit in Houston, and then also worked for Tully's dad, Joe Blanchard, out in West Texas.
Yeah.
So you wasn't in one territory. You were kind of working three territories at all times to make a full-time living because Dallas, the Von Erichs territory might only run 3 or 4 times a week. Unlike Gulas, who run 7 nights a week, multiple shows a day, It's different. But that ESPN thing made those kids household names, and they were so young, so young.
Well, and you know as well as I do, and almost any thing, whether it's your own business or it's all about getting eyes on either you or on your product, and the more eyes that are on your product or the more eyes that are on you as a performer, the better the opportunity is going to be for you to get you to take another step. And so that ESPN, even though cable wasn't as prominent at that point as it is now, obviously, and it still they were known all over because of that cable network and that ESPN recognition.
So I had to go back and read about what world class was before the boys. It was just a crap territory. What Fritz did was take his children and build a huge empire out of it. But this was short, guys. David and Kevin started in 78 and 77. Kerry starts in 80. By 90, this is all over.
Mm-hmm.
By the mid 80s, David's dead.
Yeah.
By the 90s, Kerry's dead. Mike's dead. Chris is dead. I mean, it's only about a 5-year period. It's very, very short.
So if I'm understanding and remembering correctly, David was the Von Erich that everyone felt was going to be the big time. Is that correct?
David was
Because
with Dory Funk Jr.
Yeah.
And basically they sent David to Florida to work as a heel for a year.
Mhm.
Made David go out and work as a heel, and he was going to win the World Heavyweight Championship within 6 months of him dying. Interested to see how the movie plays his death. Bruiser, Brody, and Ric Flair till the day Bruiser died, and Flair to this day says that he died of an overdose, and Bruiser Brody destroyed the evidence. The family always said he died of his small intestines basically erupted. Not that David was a suicide. They just think he mixed. Flair's contention was he mixed the wrong compound of chemicals that night, which is easy to do, and died. David was. If you, I challenge anybody to go watch David Flair or David Von Erich in Florida against Barry Windham. That was the future of the NWA. Ric Flair is not a 16-time world heavyweight champion if Barry Windham don't bug out on dusty roads and go to WWF, and David Von Erich don't die and Magnum TA get crippled, because that was the future of the NWA.
So David, while we're on the subject of David, it was understandably he was the chosen one, so to speak, because he was a great athlete, played basketball and played football. Actually got a scholarship, I think, to the wrestling university. Was it North Texas State or whatever?
As athletes at the same time. Kevin was on the football team. David was on the basketball team at the same time.
So these guys weren't just trained up wrestlers; they were athletes, legit, really, really good athletes. The whole well, I say the whole family. At least three of them. Three of them were. That's Kevin, David, and Kerry.
Kerry was a Olympic discus thrower who might have made the 1980 Olympic team if we hadn't boycotted it. And I'm interested to see how the movie handles that. Do they show his desire to be an Olympian, and then that falls apart, and he joins his brothers. So, I want you guys. Part of the reason I'm excited is I want you all to see the story too.
Yeah. So one of the criticisms of the movie, and again, there's always going to be criticism or whatever. One of the criticism, and I think it's unfair. One of the criticisms is they use a little creative license there to kind of make something look different or tweak it a little. It's based on a true story, right? It's not. But the other thing is, well, they didn't talk about this or they didn't cover this. Well, hey, look, I don't know if you guys. I love the Lord of the Ring movies that came out. There were 3 of them that came out. They were 3 hours long. But the book was this thick for each one of those books, Lord of the Rings, and you can't put everything that's in the book on cinema, on a film, or otherwise you'd be sitting for, weeks. So same thing here, they're not going to get every detail, but hopefully they covered enough of it, so I think the criticism about, well, they didn't witness thorough or they used some creative license there, I think it's garbage.
Well, the only one I have a problem with is they leave Chris completely out of the movie.
They did.
So there's 3 deaths in the movie, which is 4, I guess, with Jack, Kerry, David, and Mike. Chris is not even in the movie. His death is dressed. He's not even dressed as a brother. So that's kind of sad.
So Chris is what, remind me, Randall, Chris was the youngest, correct?
Yes, and had asthma, was only 5'5" tall, very much wanted to be a wrestler, looked a lot like Kerry, looked very much like a miniature Kerry, but he had been born with broken bone syndrome. He famously worked a match. The only match I know that he ever worked was against Percival Pringle III, who turns into the Undertaker a little bit later. And he like breaks an arm just doing normal moves, and Mike, I guess he's dressed in this too, looks incredibly like David, but wrestled more like George Goulas. That's what I'll say about it.
Well, if it had been in today's society, they would have found a place for him in wrestling somewhere as a manager or something.
They did. They found a place for Chris. He was kind of he was almost like a mascot, maybe, And Mike got into the business, got hurt in Israel, and got toxic shock syndrome. And his last match in Dallas, if you watch it, is on a Cotton Bowl show. I think it was Cornette said that he shouldn't, in any circumstance, been in the ring. So it's a tragedy, and we've talked about it a little bit, but I don't want to ruin it for everybody. But I do have a couple of pictures I'd like to show Howie, if I can take that liberty real fast. I think they got the look of the time correctly. So I want to show a couple of pictures here of first. Sorry, the real Von Erichs, Kevin, David, Kerry with Fritz. Kevin, David were already established. Kerry, you can tell, has got this really short hair, and it's the only period when he first was breaking around. I think this picture had probably been around 1980, 81, because he don't look like that for very long. We know like as the Texas Tornado. And then this is the movie portrayal of Kevin, David, and Kerry. And while it can't be exact, I think the look, kind of the time, the haircuts, the dresses, I think Jeremy Allen White is about 6 inches shorter than Kerry Von Erich. But besides that, I think they got it pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought they did a good job. I saw that picture earlier. Of course, the movie itself talking about, got some pretty big players, playing roles in this movie. Zac Efron, he talked about what he had to go through to look like that for the movie. A lot of training going on, for sure.
You got a current wrestler that's going to be in it as well with MJF.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that's one of the things that gets cut a lot. I've heard he's only one of the reviews says he's only in 2 scenes now, and they left the majority of his because he's the end of the territory. He's why it probably erupted. I mean, don't want to tell the whole story, but MJF plays Lance Von Erich, who is not a Von Erich in any form, not related to the Von Erich. He's a guy who's brought in from Portland that. Unfortunately, the day he walked in, I went, "Hey, that's Ricky Vaughn. That's not a Von Erich."
Yeah,
How can I explain this? If it had been 10 years before, they'd have pulled this off and nobody would have cared. But it was the era of cable. You couldn't bring a guy in and put a new character on him, and they thought they could. Well, Fritz thought he could, and it just was. The people in Dallas love the Von Erichs beyond. The only thing I can come up with is Hulk Hogan in the WWE, but very regional. And then bring in a fake Von Erich and you lie to them. Yeah. They almost revolted. And, there's a famous story of David and Kevin and Kerry going to Six Flags over Texas and them closing the park because the Von Erichs couldn't be in the park without being mobbed. It's like stuff out of Beatles stories. So,
right.
MJF is in it. Also in it, I think that has kind of been overlooked. We talked about it a minute ago. Chavo Guerrero plays the Armed Sheik, which I think is going to be fun too.
Yeah, and then throw another name in there that's not as well known. Ryan Nemeth is actually plays a part of one of their popular wrestlers, Gino Hernandez. So that's it for those that don't know who Ryan Nemeth is. He's an AEW talent and is the brother of one Dolph Ziggler. To kind of clarify that, but
do they have who plays Terry Gordy on there?
Let's see. I was looking down this.
His
It
name's
does. It does not have. I don't see anybody playing the part of Terry Gordy. I do see Michael Hayes. Brady Pierce plays Michael P.S. Hayes.
The guy playing Terry Gordy is the Thrill Billy from Knoxville,
That's
Tennessee.
right.
Silas, and I cannot remember his name. He's going around the country as, if you could look that up for me, they're going around as like the Southern Six, and it's Kerry Morton, him, and one other guy, and they're being managed by Ricky Morton. So this is a guy that's pretty big in the indie scene, and I've seen him wrestle. His name's Thrill Billy. And there is no one on earth to play Terry Gordy. It could play Terry Gordy other than the Thrill Billy. And
It's go ahead, Randall. I'm sorry. It's Silas Mason.
Yes.
Is his name. Yeah.
From
the Thrill Billy.
Blount County, right outside of Knoxville.
You know, let's give AEW a lot of credit by bringing the Von Erichs on this past week to let them do a match with that with the movie coming out Friday. I think it's open in some places tomorrow, but mainly it's everywhere Friday. But give what, Randy?
I said I'm so excited.
Yeah, let's give AEW and Tony Khan some credit by letting the Von Erichs come on and promoting this and getting the word out as well. And you know, WWE ought to do something like this as well, just to help promote it. And I'm sure that they could or would, but with them being sold and TKO and all this other stuff. But anyway, you know, it's great that that's one thing you got to give Tony Khan credit for. It don't matter when it was or what it was. If it's wrestling related, he's going to give it the respect that it deserves.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah. And
I agree with that.
Ross, like looking at Kevin and Kerry, I mean, you see it in them. You see that that lineage is there, especially the real dark-headed one with the beard moves so much like his Uncle Kerry. It's almost scary watching it, you know?
Yeah, and, you know.
Did they all wrestle barefooted, Randy?
No, just Kevin.
Well, okay.
A little bit about their personality, and then I'll kind of hush. David was a wrestler, wanted to be a wrestler, lived to be a wrestler. Kevin I heard somebody talk about him and describing him as should have been a cast member of the Swiss Family Robinson. Just a guy, he lives in Hawaii now. Barefooted, liked being barefooted, told his kids, you know, his son, reason I wrestled barefoot is I didn't like lacing my boots up, and all I had to do is show up with my trunk. Just a real different kind of cat, just crazy. Still alive, though. And Kerry, I don't think anybody realizes what a warrior Kerry was. He done all this with one foot missing, guys. He wrestled on a nub. Anyone that saw him as a Texas Tornado saw one, and that it wasn't Kerry Von Erich. But also, unfortunately, Kerry was the one that was, real quick story, Flair goes into the territory to wrestle Kerry in like a 3-week long series of 60 minutes. Kerry shows up drunk or high for the first one. Flair carries him 60 minutes and goes back and throws Bronco Lubitsch, the referee, the title belt and says, you go work with him for the next month. I can't. That's how bad it got. One name I'd be remiss if I don't mention here, and then I'm going to shut up. Gary Hart, the wrestling manager of great fame, the great Muda, all Kabuki. He was the booker that booked all the great Von Erich Freebird feud. So him, Bronco Lubitsch was kind of the bookers behind the scene.
Jerry, when we went to Ric Flair's last match, wasn't the Von Erichs there?
Yes. So Ross and Marshall wrestled. If I'm not mistaken, they wrestled the Briscoes in that, and I was really impressed with them. And what I think we learned later on is their flight or something had gotten delayed.
I wasn't
and they
had like an hour before the show started or something?
They had travel problems, and those guys got in there with an hour to spare and put their gear on and got ready to wrestle and put on a good show with arguably one of the best tag teams to ever do it, the Briscoes. So yeah, those guys. Hey, and I was just looking at something, Howie, and I know we went to that match, and I was thinking back. These guys are bigger than what we thought, or what I thought. They're Ross is 6'1". Marshall is 6'4".
When you're going against the Briscoes, they look small.
Yeah, they did.
Bulldogs haven't beaten the Rams since 2020. We jump in with the Rams cruising up 21 in the third, but not showing any signs of.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, boys. Let me get that stopped. There you
go. Randall said he was done with football. I'm not good. I'm not done with football, man.
I'm trying to get something loaded up. Y'all keep talking.
But Randall referenced wrestling Flair. One of the, I guess the pinnacle of the Von Erichs was Kerry beating Ric Flair. There it is. Beating Ric Flair in Texas Stadium for the NWA World Title. And I think he only held it for a month, something like that, because I think he missed, the world title, that traveling champion, a lot of responsibility on his shoulders, and he started off on the wrong foot, not making the town, so to speak, from what I understand, and that was a substance abuse issue, I think, as far as that's.
When the Von Erichs would wrestle in Texas, it didn't matter if they were the main event or not. That's who everybody come out to watch. And when that 3 went down and Von Erich's hand went up, the babies, as Jim Cornette said, the babies was in the air.
Yeah.
One of the last great stands of regional wrestling is the Von Erich story. It's a territory that blew up. I want to say it took the AEW, WWE was always the king. WCW was a 2, and then AWA was 3. For a 3-year run, I don't know that if World Class wasn't the number 3.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how big it was.
And that was strictly, even though they had a lot of talent, that was the Von Erichs. I mean, and you mentioned some of the talent. You had one Mark Calloway got his start with Fritz Von Erich, and he actually. I love this story. This is one of my favorite stories, and most people have heard it. But he the Undertaker. In case you didn't know who Mark Calloway was, the Undertaker got his start by showing up at the Sportatorium office every day at the same time, and said Fritz would walk in and never acknowledged him. Finally, he asked, what's this kid? What's this kid want? And he hired him because he felt like he looked like David, his son. That's pretty big name in wrestling history, I'd say.
Hey, and in his first match, Fritz puts him against
Bruiser. Let's see what you made out of, boy. Bruiser Brody.
Inside a mask as the Texas Red.
Texas Red, I've watched that match several times. He took a beating.
We'll go and name a couple more that was in the WCCW, which was you mentioned The Undertaker, Ultimate Warrior, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, the Hall of Fame names just keep on coming out of that area right there. And Randy and Jeremy, do you contribute that to Fritz working with the talent more back then than they do now?
So let me say this. Fritz didn't believe in wrestling schools. None of his boys ever went to wrestling schools. What happened was a couple of Fritz's talent started wrestling schools. Chris Adams, most famously, trained Stone Cold. Buzz Sawyer kind of had his hands on the Undertaker, and then money. And I think that Chris Adams eventually picked him up and kind of trained him on the road. I credit their growth more to when Fritz sold the business, he sold it to Jerry Jarrett. What Jerry Jarrett got was a very raw Stone Cold Steve Austin and a very raw Mark Calloway. When it went under, Vince immediately signed the Ultimate Warrior, known as the Dingo Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Howie, to answer your question, I think Fritz just kind of, he had to have big guys. The Devil's making an appearance on AEW right now as we speak. Fritz had to have big opponents for his boys. So he went and got big opponents for his boys.
So one of the things, and I don't know if you guys have watched the Dark Side of the Ring on the Von Erichs. One of the things, I guess you could call it maybe a speculation or whatever, is that, basically Fritz gave up. Like he because losing his sons, and that it was such a struggle for him that he kind of lost his kind of spunk, if you will, for the business. And that kind of contributed to that downturn, I guess, if you will. And I could totally, if that is the case, I could totally understand how that, how that would happen.
I think there's a scene in the movie that's in the trailer where Fritz are rating the boys that this one's his favorite, this one's this one. There's also a very interesting interview with Fritz after he quit wrestling. I think the death of Kerry and David shook him up. I think the death of Mike destroyed him. I think the death of Mike was the pill that destroyed Jack Adkisson and Fritz von Erich.
Mm-hmm. So tell me if I'm wrong. I think I'm reading here. I was just scrolling through. I was curious that Fritz he sold to Jerry Jarrett in about 1989.
Somewhere. Kevin and Kerry was showing up high and unable to perform.
Yeah.
Fritz sold a business that Kerry and Kevin claimed they owned.
Yeah.
Kevin actually Jeff or Jerry Jarrett after the deal went down.
So according to this, it says that when he sold to Jerry, that the deal was supposed to make Jerry a 60% owner, while Kevin and Kerry combined were 40% owners.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the boys, and to hear Jarrett's shoot interview, he planned on using the boys, but they weren't responsible. And by 1990, Kerry was maybe gone to the WWE. Kevin sued Jerry. Kerry was in rough. Kerry was, I'm sure, I don't want to run the movie again, but Kerry was headed to prison at this point for a lot of things. But Jerry made a lot of money out of Texas, but he also way he did it, and it won't be shown in the movie. He made WCCW the bad guys and USWA the good guys,
Right.
and sent Erich Embry down to represent him and be the star and to replace the boys, and I guess he did. And eventually, when he started to lose money down there, Jerry just shut it down and came on. Sent Tojo down there, Phil Hickerson down there. A lot of very, very Tennessee-oriented wrestlers. So, back to the boys. You mentioned something about size. David is like 6'8", 6'9".
Yeah. I knew David was the tallest, obviously, and he was a decent-sized kid.
Yeah, and I challenge anybody that if you've watched this show and you've enjoyed it, go find David Von Erich in Florida. He was the best. Yeah. And they chose Dory for him to be with because the Funks and Dory and Terry, Von Erich, obviously, and the Briscoes have in Florida basically have crowned Dave their next travel champion. See, back then it was right on the edge of travel champions. So they're thinking can go into Florida and work as a heel. Dave can go into Missouri and work as a babyface. Dave can go to Japan and work as a gaijin. He can go. So they're trying to hold on to the last vestige of a traveling world champion. And I think Crockett was the only one that really held on to wanted Flair. Yeah. And, of course, Crockett wanted Flair because he controlled Flair. Everybody else in WWE wanted David Von Erich.
So I was looking through kind of the roster over the years of wrestlers associated. Pretty impressive. We talked about some of the talent, but you got Rick Rude, Percy Pringle, you mentioned earlier, who was pallbearer. You got the Skandar
Akbar and the
Skandar
rated Black Bart.
Black Bart.
It was
let me ask you guys this real quick, and I've been trying to figure out how to word it to sound proper or appropriate. But if the Von Erichs didn't have the bad luck that they had, how different would the wrestling world be today?
But I'll answer that to start with and go to you, Jeremy. Black Bart said they'd still be in Dallas and still have a territory if David Von Erich was alive today. I don't think it's any different, Howie. I think David, Kevin, and Kerry signed a contract. I don't get why he didn't go. David, Kerry, and Kevin were built to be WCW wrestlers. And Kerry signed that contract with, according to who you talk to, Kerry had a verbal contract with the WCW, was supposed to appear on WCW, was going to be brought in, had cleaned his act up a little bit. And then the next week he's on. And Vince McMahon's, here's why I hate WWE. They built Kerry Von Erich as the Texas Tornado, not Kerry Von Erich. I mean, that just tore my heart out. So, unfortunately, Howie, I think the drug addiction would taken them away from the visit. But I do believe if David Von Erich had lived to be 40 years old, and David died at 25, y'all, 26 years old. His run is like 5 years.
Yeah.
And supposedly when Kerry gets the world title at that Dallas show, that was built for David to beat Flair and to go on his first traveling. And they didn't have it set up to be long. I think it was like a 6-month run. But he takes that 6 months and he just does well. Does what I think David Von Erich would have done as a traveling world champion. I think he's like Crockett. And true or not, I've always heard it was supposed to have been, the order was going to be David to Barry Windham to Magnum TA back to Flair. That was what the big plan was. And then you've got 3 world. And you know who that leaves out? Dusty Rhodes, Harley Ray, guys who carried on way past their prime in that. I think they were trying to recreate Harley Race, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes with David Von Erich, Magnum TA, and Barry Windham, and it just failed to crap. So that's my opinion. But and Kerry Von Erich would have been, if he wouldn't have been on drugs, Kerry Von Erich would have been the biggest star New York ever had. The man was built like a Greek god and still went up there with 1 foot. And we're talking about the Texas tornado today, 30 years later.
Jeremy, you have anything to add?
I think as far as being in business, I don't think they would have still been in business or would have been in business for a long time. But that, and Randall talked about some of it, I think they would be a lot more Von Erich holding belts in the history of wrestling, starting with David there with the NWA World Championship. Kerry, totally see Kerry being the WWF champion.
Absolutely.
He was made, and David for that matter. I mean, he was so young. His physique wasn't probably what it could have been. So who knows? I still think ultimately we end up where we're at right now. But I think that there's a lot of runs for Von Erichs, either holding tag team titles, holding world titles, and into WWF for sure.
I think that still collapse. I think you describe it well. I could see them. I don't think Kevin was long for the wrestling business. He didn't seem to. And Kevin too was untrained. Fritz said it. To wrestle Kevin Von Erich was a fist fight because he didn't know. And Fritz Von Erich called him the toughest wrestler to ever work. Nobody wanted to work with that. David was just a technician. David was Dory Funk Jr. And Kerry, all they ever talk about is how Kerry took care of his opponent. You give me the one that works with his opponent in mind. You give me Dory Funk Jr. and a 6'9", 265-pound guy.
Yeah.
And you're fine. One of the questions I sent you is Chris and Mike didn't need to be in the business. They didn't need to be in the business, Howie. Mike looked like David, and everybody wanted him to be David. Mike was cursed from day one. You look like David Von Erich, but you're 6 foot tall and 180 pounds. You just can't. You can't. But facially, Mike Von Erich and David Von Erich looked like brothers, ironically.
Wow.
And then there's also the older brother, Jack, that gets executed when he was 4. So, but
yeah, ooh,
we're meeting Friday for those watching the show, and we've had as high as 12 on here watching this, guys. I think people miss us. We're planning on as a group going Friday night and watching this. I don't think we're going to leave there happy. I think it's leave there feeling very tragic, which people realize. And I want you to know, and this is Randall talking, not QB1, not the guy gets on here to play heel. I want you to go experience what this family went through.
Yeah.
And the love they had for the boys. Not Fritz is a taskmaster. Doris is out in the middle of nowhere. Doris to me was like the 70 housewives on Placidille, not paying attention when burning down.
Yeah.
Those boys loved each other. Kevin, Kerry, and David, Mike, Chris. that's what brothers are supposed to be. And I think that will come out in the movie. But I think at the end of the movie, we'll all leave there and go,
Yeah.
that really happened. Yeah. That really happened. And, but we'll see enough. I mean, Kerry Von Erich drives a motorcycle into a police car and loses his foot. You can't even make that stuff up in a movie.
No.
So.
No. It really is sad, and I think that's some of the thing was the reviews and everything is it look, it's not a feel good story, it's unfortunately it's not. Of course, the feel good, I guess, is if you look and see that Marshall and Ross making their name in professional wrestling, Kevin doing well. From what I understand, I don't know if you guys heard this, that they are moving back to Texas. Kevin is moving, if not already, has moved back to Texas.
That's good.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Kevin, we haven't talked about Kevin, but the movie, from what I understand, is told through Kevin's eyes. Mm-hmm. And Kevin Von Erich, loved his brothers and struggled himself. There's a story, famously, I think it's Jim Cornette told it, that after all the brothers had died, that they were talking to Kevin, and Kevin said the most famous words I think I've ever heard, and it makes me cry every time I think of it. Kevin said, "I used to be an older brother, but I'm not even a brother anymore."
Yeah.
Think about that. There were 6 of them.
That's I still can't. I mean, it's hard to even fathom that that's a large family. That's not a small family. That's a large family. And
that is.
To think that you saw your all your siblings pass, and then Fritz. I don't know if is Doris. I'm assuming is not.
I don't know if the movie will address it, but Doris left Fritz right after Mike killed himself.
Yeah, that's true. She did.
So the whole family ends up falling apart. There's a shoot interview in 1997 with Mike or Fritz online, and you should go watch it before you see the movie. Also, I think it's blazed over a little bit, Howie. Fritz was a Nazi in his character, and that's got to bring you bad karma. After World War II in 1952, Fritz is going around the country as Fritz von Erich with Waldo von Erich as Nazi sympathizers. I mean, I saw something. I was watching the stuff today, and I was clicking through, and I clicked on one that really wasn't a real story, but it was like a pretend story of what had happened to the Von Erichs. And before I realized it, they were telling this story about a ghost who showed up and looked at Fritz von Erich, told him that they were a German survivor, and that he cursed Fritz for 5 of his 6 sons to die because that's what happened to her kids during the war. And you get thinking about that. That is some bad karma. Not that that was true. That was made up. But that is some bad karma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to going to the movie. And anybody that really knows me knows that I'm not one to say that. I'm not a movie person. But seeing the excitement and hearing the excitement in Randy's voice talking about it and wanting us to go,
I'm
looking forward to going and watching it and hanging out with you guys. And so to wrap this up, Jeremy, got any closing thoughts?
Well, I mean, I'm excited to see it, and of course, I'm keeping in mind, that it's not a documentary. It's an entertainment piece. Hopefully,
if you want a documentary, the Behind the Dark Side of the Ring is an excellent one.
Yeah, by the way, yeah, if you can find the dark side of the ring out there, it's a very good story. I think it's even darker than maybe this movie will be, because it outlines the death of Jack, the oldest, and then Chris as well, where the movie doesn't. But I'm excited to go see it, to get kind of in that wrestling gear again. I mean, we've been in football us three for since August.
August 15th.
Yeah, and so ready to get, hit the ground running, and let's get back into some old wrestling again, and have a good time. So I'm looking forward to Friday night, guys, and you know we just got to keep Randall under control, Howie. That's all I've got to say. You know,
I think Randy said he's going to buy the first popcorn and snacks when we got there.
hey, we'll go with that. If Sky Blue and Tony Storm and um gosh, what's her name show up, we know we'll get thrown out of the theater because Randall will be hooting and hollering. So
Randy, closing thoughts.
Hey, I love this story, and I am excited to take you. I've got Anna Lee. I've talked about it so much. Anna Lee wanting to go with us now. So, I love professional wrestling. But
well,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I've too much energy drink.
What makes me love professional wrestling is some of the tragedy. And I think it's all out there for a movie. I think Harley Race's life would make the greatest movie ever. I'm super excited to see this, and I'm super excited to watch it. God, and I'm realizing how fat I am with this beard too. Also, last thing to close, the AEW story of the devil is the best story in wrestling right now.
Who is it?
I'm really afraid if we stay on much longer, Jeremy's going to put his shirt up over his head and be walking around like Beavis and Butthead.
I am the great corner. I got a shirt on underneath.
Hey, no.
Great cornholio.
See from my bunghole.
Oh my gosh, we're losing it. We're losing it.
We're going to start up weekly, everybody. Next, Howie and I have talked about we need to start with Road to WrestleMania because I think that's what's being paved right now.
Yeah,
so,
it is. Hey, by the way, Sting's last match. We got to touch on that as well.
Yeah, can't overlook R-Truth beating JD to become a member of the what's it called?
The Brawling Brutes.
Judgment Day.
Oh, yeah. Judgment Day. I'm sorry. I thought you was talking about JD McDonough. I'm sorry. I went nuts on that.
How good is R-Truth?
Unsung wrestler.
Hey, he's what? Look, that guy has made me laugh and made stuff work that they hand him over the years.
Oh, hurrah, hurrah. When he showed up in the Confederate uniform.
My favorite one was when he had Little Jimmy with him. Yep. Little Jimmy.
And he was wrestling John Cena. And he goes, I'm here in Virginia, the home of the Confederacy.
He's fat. He's one of the best.
Hey,
I mean,
all joking aside, he can do it all. He's actually a good performer inside the ring.
Yep.
He's a good spokesman as well. Promos because they're funny.
I love them.
Did y'all?
I love.
Guess the wrestler today. Did y'all know who that was? I thought it was. Here we go.
I did. Oh, that's Rick Steiner.
That is him, but it does not look like Rick Steiner in any form, other than if you look at the face, you know that's him.
Yeah. Now you stumped me the other day, and of course after you told us who it was, I'm like, oh well, yeah, I see it now, but I did not think Rick Rude. So
we'll let that one settle for a while, and we'll try it on the audience.
Yeah.
But
a lot of stuff up here in the near future, and most people are going on break right now, but we're actually coming off break and getting ready to hit it hard and heavy, going into the Super Bowl of what I call the Super Bowl of wrestling as far as WrestleMania. I know it's not as great as it has been in the past, but I got a feeling this year could be a different story.
Hey, and we at some point we got to talk about the resurrection of Big Bill. You talk about somebody was a trade back together. Big Bill and EW is a great story.
It is. But WrestleMania, back to the WrestleMania, I will say this. I've never watched a WrestleMania that I was disappointed over. I've always been entertained. It's a spectacle. I think the card is shaping up big time. I'm loving this. With Punk, you got LA Knight still. You've got Cody, Seth. You got Art. Yeah, got Gunther. Yeah, I got R-Truth.
Did y'all see the post conference or whatever after CM Punk came out and Triple H came out and said, yeah, we had a big return tonight, and he said R-Truth made his return tonight.
Yeah, I loved it. I love it. So good, man.
It's great. It's great to be back here talking to y'all guys and looking forward to it. And we'll get back on a regular schedule. Hopefully we can get with Jeremy and his schedule and see what nights will be best for him, where we can work around it and do it on the nights that he's available. And a lot of wrestling out there right now, guys. A lot of wrestling everywhere.
More than you can keep up with.
Absolutely. You have to choose what you watch.
Yeah.
It is literally 6 nights a week at the moment.
Right now, I'm watching TNA and AEW. That's been the two I mostly. And hey, TNA's got some good stuff on there.
Yeah. Oh, they yes. They're still their issue is finding. I know they're on Axis right now.
Horrible.
Huh?
It's horrible. The outlet.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to throw a wild one out about the AEW Devil, and then y'all get with me when that gets revealed. I'm still believing that the AEW Devil could be Sami Callihan, who lost his contract with TNA. Of course, ex-WWE, been fired everywhere, but they were doing this thing where he was controlling lights and TV and stuff, and that was Sami Callihan's gimmick in WWE. So I'm not ruling out Sami Callihan.
Britt Baker.
I heard that one. You might be on.
Well, but the Devil, when they make an appearance, they're not Britt Baker size.
They're different sizes if you'll watch them. One week it was Wardlow.
Yeah.
I was 100% convinced it was Wardlow by the way he moved and stuff.
So I think the Britt Baker thing, to Howie's point, would be fantastic. I do. I like that.
I just don't want it to be the Black Scorpion where WCW. Don't be
what? What you end up being stinking Jack Perry coming back?
Oh no! Hey, look! I hope he's wrestling in high school gyms for the rest of his life. What an idiot! What a stupid idiot to be that arrogant or whatever to do that.
Dollars out. Randy off. We gotta get dollars out.
I said jungle.
It's just
the first
stupid.
time me and Randy went and watched AEW in Huntsville. We was there watching it, and at that time, and I was a firm believer in it, and I know Randy was. We were saying Jack Perry was going to be the next wrestling star, period, of any federation, and he's lower now than he was then, and that's.
Hey,
I don't know.
He's wrestling with Marco Stunt at the National Guard Armory right now. You know, I don't know. I just, that Stunt, we talked about Punk, and I get it. He's equally as bad.
If he is coming back, he needs to come back as the most arrogant rich boy heel to everyone face of the earth, flaunting Anna J around and just make it old.
He needs to be a modern day $1 million man.
Well, they were trying to do that with him, and we're rambling, but they were trying to do that with him before all the all that stuff. It was kind of change his persona and get him kind of cocky and all that. But anyway.
All right, guys, hour and a half into it. We're going to move on out of here, see if Jeremy can wind down, get some sleep tonight before Randy takes anything else off. And we'll be back.
8 hours.
I did get here one night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we'll move on and we'll wait and see what happens. We'll let you know. Check on River City Media to see when our next show will be, which we're hoping to be one day next week. Just don't know which day yet.
I think Thursday, if that works, Jeremy, you check on it. Thursday's best night for me.
I think that works for me. I have to work. I will be working on Tuesday and Wednesday night, so Thursday sounds good.
All right, then. Next Thursday.
Road to WrestleMania with the QB1, the Brain, Howie Chaney, and the Babyface, Double J, Jeremy Johnson.
If we don't see you before, wish everyone a very Merry Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
We'll try to go live just for a minute after the movie with some impressions.
A lot of tears is the way you're talking about, but anyway, we'll do the best we can do.
4-1, I cry.
We'll be back, but like Jeremy's over there hiding his face, trying to laugh. But something that's going around on a lot of social medias right now, and I'm a firm believer in it. Spend time with your family. Put your phone down. Spend time with your family. Talk to them.
Yep.
You don't know who's going to be here this time, much less next week, but this time next year.
Absolutely.
Good night.
So, for state champion Jeremy Johnson, for Mr. Stripper over here, Randy Cunningham.
Jungle Jack for president.
I'm the Howie Chaney, and join us next Thursday when Randy will say,
Anybody seen my teeth?